Please.
So many I have to do it again. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Plan Commission, July 9th, 2026. Let's stand to say the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Could we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Blaylock,
Here.
Commissioner Gratzer, Commissioner Gratzer, Commissioner Brown,
Greetings. Here.
Commissioner Broussard is not here. Commissioner Rothbard,
Yeah, here.
and Chairperson Rykoff.
Here. We have a quorum.
We have quorum.
All right, the first item of business is the approval of the minutes of June 11th. Does anybody, I'll entertain a motion and then we can.
Actually, it's June 15. I should tell you. It's
That's right, June 15.
minutes were, the meeting was June 15.
All right,
Sorry.
I'll move to approve the minutes.
is there a second? All right, is there any discussion?
No.
I had a few comments. Starting with, this is the second page that I have. There's a paragraph that says, the re-subdivision of Lot 2 will enable the village to segregate newly created lots 3 and 4. There are several references to comp storage, and I think we should just say compensatory, just to not use shorthand. That comes up in a couple of places. I'll give my notes to whomever. They can use them to amend the draft minutes. Also, I think the sentence saying the remaining new lot 2, should just say the re-subdivided lot 2, just to be clear. Coming down a couple of paragraphs, it says IGA, which is intergovernmental agreement. I think that should be spelled out rather than using initials. Let's see. And then under the staff report, I think it should say, just for clarification, Director Witt reported Pomeroy submitted drawings for its proposed Nordic Spa development on the Walters Kluwer property, and then go on with what it says. And then at the end, it says, would be considered at the next Plan Commission meeting. I would say at the July Plan Commission meeting. These are just clarification points. And the last thing I would do is also under staff report, just before number 6, Mr. Huvard explained the village has received a number of proposals on the 37-acre landfill parcel on Milwaukee Avenue, period. I think it's a little bit awkward the way it was written. So that's everything that I would like to add to the draft. Any comments on that? Are there any other comments? Okay, so I suggest that maybe the motion be amended to approval of the draft minutes as amended.
Agreed. So moved.
Second. All right. All in favor? please say. Any opposed? All right, the minutes are approved as amended. Do we have any visitors wishing to address the Plan Commission other than business that is on the agenda? All right, then we can move to new business. The first being a public hearing, consideration of a zoning text amendment to add destination spa as a possible special use in the O and R1 district. And who would like to speak first, Director Witt or?
I think I'll start. It's okay. In the materials that the Plan Commission received, you have a memo that we prepared giving a little background about this. I mentioned it a little bit at the end of the last meeting. First of all, David Meek is here. He's an attorney and he represents the Pomeroy Development Limited Group, Pomeroy Property Development Limited. And in order to consider such an unusual use as a destination spa, we basically had to create the zoning for it. We didn't have any existing zoning that would allow this kind of use. The property, the Wolters Kluwer property, is in the Office and Research 1 district. And it came when it was first approved in the village and annexed. It was annexed for that zoning and the office building was built. And as you know, it was marketed for some time to be kept as an office building without any success. No buyers in the office market that we have today. The Pomeroy Group is proposing to develop a very unusual product. And when we thought about how to approach the approval process, we decided that we would try to keep the underlying zoning for consistency with the fact that these are the large parcels. They're on Lake Cook Road. They were intended to be a buffer. If you look at the history of the Office and Research Campus properties, they have a low amount of lot coverage compared to a lot of other uses. The floor area ratio, which is the ratio of how much square footage is in the buildings compared to the size of the property, is only 14% in the ONR1 district. So these were designed to be somewhat of a leafy green campus that observed the woodland character of the village. We lost the thread a little bit with the Discover Campus property, which was annexed and granted ONR2 zoning. So it was a denser development to begin with. This was all done in the early mid-'80s. And then in order to work with Discover, they wanted to expand and stay in the village, but they wanted to expand. Their property was, zoning was amended, their annexation agreement was amended about 2000 or 2001. And the resulting density on that site is allowed as a special use in the ONR1 district. So that property is also in the ONR1 district, but now it's called what we refer to as a large office campus special use. The Office and Research 1 district also included the Federal Life property and still does. The underlying zoning for that is Office and Research 1. So those are really the only 3 instances in the village that we have that zoning left. A couple of the smaller parcels that used to be Office and Research 1, we later put into a separate district called Office and Research Compatible. That's where the Holiday Inn is located. That's on Lake Cook Road. That's the Podolsky office building on Lake Cook Road. So we won't, whatever we decide for a special use in the Office and Research 1 district, we will not see it apply, very unlikely to see it applied anywhere else in the village. The Federal Life parcel is, of course, owned by the village at this time. The last amendment that we made to the Office and Research 1 zoning was to authorize governmental uses and fire stations in the ONR1 district. So that's a permitted use in the ONR1 district. We probably will never need to change the zoning over there. Another characteristic of the Office and Research 1 zoning district was that the parcels were intended to be in a very large tract. The minimum tract for zoning purposes to be considered an entire tract for zoning for ONR1, I think originally was 50 acres. The individual lots were a minimum of 10 acres. Again, it all went with the concept that this was an office campus type of use, and that there would be plenty of buffer, landscape buffer surrounding these properties. In the traditional zoning world, planning world, if you had a street like Lake Cook Road, a 6-lane road, and you had residential behind it, having this type of use was appropriate both from the standpoint of its accessibility for traffic and employees and parking, and also it provided, if you plan it correctly and you create landscaping and buffering, it creates a buffer to the residential area. So the districts function in that way. Knowing that history, it then made sense to us, and I'm referring to Steve Wood, our Director of Community Planning Services, and Michael Blue, who's with Tesca Associates, to come up with a special use in the ONR1 district, not to rezone the whole property, not to create something new, but just to look at some of the variety that we've allowed in the Office and Research One campus area, where we've allowed for changes that resulted in a hotel or an office building, smaller uses. But in this case, to look at a destination spa as essentially a use that is concerned with conservation and buffering, and therefore it could be a special use in the Office and Research One district with some important caveats. One being that a large percentage, in this case, we suggested 30% of the site be preserved as open space. Again, outside of Capital One, or now Discover is now called Capital One, this parcel, Walters Kluwer, that we're going to be looking at next meeting, and the Federal Life parcel, we don't have, this doesn't appear elsewhere currently in the village. Whether on Milwaukee Avenue it ever could is another question, but you won't see a destination spa on Milwaukee Avenue. So this is truly a unique use. When you have that kind of situation, the applicant, the petitioner, explains to you what their proposal is. They've now submitted site plans, civil engineering, landscaping, all sorts of drawings, and gone through probably 3 or 4 iterations, meeting with staff and our consultants, our wetland consultant, our ecologist, refining the proposal. And then, frankly, we look at what the proposal is, and we back into zoning. We don't just invent zoning and say, now come, meet this. We look very carefully at what the likely proposal will be, and then we designed a special use and a set of design considerations, partly in response to what we saw being presented, and partly as a spur to the developer, saying, look, we know that you're on iteration 1, we're asking you for iteration 2. Here are the standards that we want you to observe. And it's by having the sort of the foreknowledge of those standards, because we kept sharing them with the developers team, that they came up with iteration 3 and 4. So in effect, we have been collaborating together on what a site plan would look like that we think has a lot of excellence in design standards. And then we tried to reflect that in the zoning text amendment. I think I did the initial several drafts. I probably am responsible for 70% of the text, but the petitioners, the lawyers and team also made many edits and suggestions along the way as we tried to come to the spirit of what's being proposed. So that just gives you some understanding of what you're looking at. It's a unique use. There was a long strategic thought process about why we designed it as a special use in the office campus district. We worked with a specific site plan because we're not going to have 10 other site plans in this district. And we pushed each other back and forth on, I would say most of the pushing was from our side, because it was our consultants who were saying no to this, no, you have to do this, no, you have to do this. You will be receiving a package, if the timeline is adhered to, probably in a couple of weeks, with the proposal for a destination spa special use in the ONR1 district. But tonight, it's not really the exact proposal that is under consideration. And I know that in the memo, we included one of the iteration, maybe 2 or 2A of the site plan. It's changed 5 times since then, but it's, conceptually, the idea you get is that they are staying within the envelope of the old Wolters Kluwer buildings and nestling a bunch of smaller outdoor wellness type uses and things, sauna buildings, hammock buildings. So with that said, and one of the pages in the memo lists about 29 individual structures or pools, cold plunge pools, sauna, steam room. You can see that when you try to understand a site plan like this, there's different ways you can go about it, but essentially, instead of trying to define the setback everywhere on the site, or the setback between buildings, or a lot size, or all of those things you can see become very problematic with this kind of use. Instead, what we often do in the planning world with this is we say that the zoning is really site plan specific. That what governs your ability to put a building here and a building here, and the distance between buildings, the amount of buildings on the site, it's because it's on a site plan that's part of the approval. And that site plan defines the placement of the buildings, it's a dimension site plan, the number of buildings, the square footage. It indicates the uses of those buildings, the height of the building. So we try and put, in effect, we try to regulate the development through an intense listing of all of this information on a site plan, rather than attempt to anticipate it in just general standards that we really would struggle with in the traditional format. Then I'd just like to quickly go through the first 4 or 5 pages of the text amendment itself, unless I can stop if you have any questions so far. Should I keep going? Okay. The last 5 or so pages of the text amendment are mostly procedural, and we can really take that up at the end because it's really just how we would process this application. So what we began with is a couple of definitions, because when we get to the Office and Research 1 zoning district, we list special uses, for example, religious institutions, large office campus special use, that's Discover, and we would have a new special use called Destination Spa. But typically, if we're going to have something like that, we want to define what it is. We put the definition back up in the definition section, which is what we've done here. So we have at least 2 terms that we think are fully new defined terms. One is a destination spa, one is the hotel that would be built on the campus. Just as a note to you, our suggestion was the height be limited to 47 feet. The petitioner at the last moment got nervous about that and said, well, maybe it's not exceeding 4 stories, but 58 feet. We can go into that later, but I'm just pointing out to you, for the most part, the edits and changes that they asked for, we've incorporated, or with some changes, where we still have some hanging difference, hanging chad, where we still have a difference. Well, I'd like to just point it out. One of them is that that the maximum height in our draft was 47 feet, which is comparable to the height of the Holiday Inn, I think. I think that's what I took it from. Also, just so you know, height in our zoning ordinance is measured to the top of a flat roof, and if it's a gable roof, it's measured to the midpoint between the eave and the peak. So you have to think about that. So the next part of the text amendment is the section that lists the special uses in the ONR1 district. So this would list Destination Spa. You see it says new after it. That's to show you that it's not there now. And then all of 9.5C13, this new section, all deals with what is a destination spa, what is its purpose, what are the land use requirements for it, that it's established by a special use ordinance. And you'll see at the top of the second page of the ordinance, it's page number 2 is on the bottom of mine. I don't know if it's on the bottom of yours, the ordinance, is the requirement that 30% of the site shall be subject to restrictions that preserve open space, protected woodlands, and similar natural features. in a continuous area using a form of restrictive covenant approved by the village board. Essentially, they have proposed segregating the woodland area on the north of the site. It's approximately 17 point something acres that they would be setting aside, which is actually, as I think I point out in the memo, 35% or something of the site. What did I come up with? 37%. It's in the memo. Someone will help me with this. Yeah, it's a high percentage, and it's again, this comes back from that back and forth process because staff said to them, you have to stay out of the woodland areas. Our village ecologists identified the woodland areas. I think the only incursions into the woodland areas are one or two very small structures like these little sauna houses or something where they'll have like an elevated walkway, something very nature protective. Because, and as they will explain to you, their whole purpose in this kind of facility is for people to be part of nature, to experience these facilities in relation to the natural environment. The only reason they're attracted to the site is to be able to orient people to be able to experience the woods. And in that sense, they'll talk about it more when they're before you next meeting. But that requirement, though, the 30% is something that we came up with basically looking at the amount of woodlands on the site. And they're going a little bit above and beyond what we originally suggested. The uses allowed, again, if you look at the earlier memo and you see the number of little buildings, it's an outdoor kind of use where you walk from a plunge pool, a house with a sauna, outdoor showers, soaking tubs, there's a swimming pool, there's outdoor paths. They have something called hammock villages. I think one of the illustrations at the last page of my memo was of a hammock house. So we tried to capture the various uses. Obviously, the one that's the most, and they have always proposed that next to the main administrative building where they have some wellness facilities and also their offices of some sort for their staff and manager, there would be a separate bistro or restaurant building. So there's restaurant uses in the list of uses. They indicated besides meeting rooms, an event center. Michael Blue from our land use planning consultant raised a question as to what is an event center. We don't want to get too far away from the purposes. Almost all of the uses that they are proposing are supposed to be uses that relate to the people on site, the people coming to use the spa facility, not just outside groups that, it's not day trippers unless they're, putting on their bathrobe and going into the plunge pool. At least that's my understanding, and we'll ask them to comment on them if they have a comment. The hotel, the Destination Spa Hotel, is probably the main future use, and they're proposing it as a phase 2 use. If the property succeeds as they hope it will, then they would like to be able to conceive of a hotel for guests who come and stay for a 2 or 3 day, I don't know if longer, but, people who want to stay overnight to enjoy the facilities. We'll get to that later. The design standards, again, these are standards that will be familiar to the Plan Commission because we put many of these types of standards into the planned development ordinance that we worked on for a year, emphasizing the preservation of natural conditions, respecting the character of the property and surrounding properties, conserving landscaping, using native landscaping where possible. We added some new thoughts here. One is that the spa would operate in accordance with an adopted sustainability plan, which they will work on with our sustainability consultant. These are many of these, hiding trash and garbage areas and storage areas. There are many sort of commonalities in our design standards where you try to promote this. We borrowed some of these from the plan development ordinance. Some we wrote up specifically for this. And then finally, the last, half of the ordinance deals with, well, how do you actually process this? We have to spell out how you go through this process. What we have come up with is a procedure where they, as many others have done with special uses, they come in with a full submittal of concept drawings, preliminary plans. As I said, they've been through many iterations. It comes before the Plan Commission. The Plan Commission is a recommending body, as it is with other special uses. And then it goes to the village board. The village board will have a development plan, as I mentioned, with all of this detailed information on it. If it approves it by ordinance, there would be a special use ordinance, and the ordinance would have a number of conditions as the board saw fit, some of which would likely be things that have been recommended by the Plan Commission. And they're granted a special use, but not a building permit. They don't have the right to build. They just have the special use approved. And then this gives them the ability to go finance the rest of the acquisition, to close on the property, to spend the money and time to go to final drawings and engineering. And for that process, we thought that a technical review by a technical review committee would be appropriate, that they had to go through. We really wanted to spell out that they had to show us that they'd met the intent of all the conditions in the special use before they could, get a permit to build. There's some language about what to do about multiple phases, what to do about the start and stop times. You grant a special use and then someone doesn't get around to it for 2 years. What happens? Someone starts a special use project and then abandons it midstream. What happens? These are things that we've dealt with in other examples. We dealt with it here as well. I don't want to spend a lot of time going through that. But that's the general nature of the text amendment. The contents of the development plan that they have to submit to the village are located in Appendix A and Appendix B. And so the request tonight is to consider recommending approval of this text amendment to the village board. The village board would not act on this before it had heard the rest of the presentation on the actual special use request. Their application for the special use is made as if the text amendment had been granted. So the board is not going to approve the text amendment and have the whole thing there waiting to be acted on before it even hears the special use. But at least in this way, when they come back to you for the meeting on the special use, all of the detail that we've just gone through tonight, we don't have to go through again. We can leave that aside and just deal with in what way they've addressed the standards of the special use. So did I leave anything out?
No.
Can I just ask some general questions, if that's okay? So I was looking on their website. They're in Canada? Is that where they're right now? Nordic Spa they have a facility out there? Is that correct?
One in Denver also right now.
Denver, and they want to bring it to Riverwoods here?
Right.
Okay, and just why? I'm just asking, is it because of the serene? Like, what's the reason? Behind it?
Well, we can ask David Meek to comment on what their reasons are.
Okay.
What they've said to us in staff meeting is that they're looking at coming to the United States. They like the market. They are developing in Denver, outside of Denver somewhere. And frankly, we were astonished that they found this site.
Riverwoods, yeah.
If you want a site,
Beautiful place.
Features within a short distance
You
of
have a beautiful place.
population
Yeah,
center.
sure.
But, David, if you want to comment on that.
Yeah. Hi, how are you?
Right.
But David, before you start, there's a little button you have
Press
to
the
push.
Press the button.
And just,
I'm David Meek. I'm a partner at MPS Law. Even a little closer. Okay. Pomeroy has developed facilities like this. I hate the word facility, but they've developed places like this in Alaska. They're working on it in Denver. They're working on one now in about 60 miles north of Atlanta. And they have other types of hospitality uses, which you probably saw looking at their website. But this is a very special kind of facility, and they do love this location. And, it does have a very unique type of woodland character And it is something that they're, intending to preserve, want to preserve, and frankly need to preserve because of its not only woodland but wetland characteristics. And so they want to take advantage of that, and they think that they can, through the landscaping and landscaping enhancements, reutilize this site in a way that will tuck it into the woods and create a wonderful experience. And so, we came to this after they had selected the site. I know that they had worked with real estate brokers to help find. I didn't think to be prepared to address how they got to this site, but they are here, and they have been working extensively with the village through the guidance of the gentlemen who are here today and others who are your consultants. And we're appreciative of really a lot of effort that they've put into it already with my client.
Did I also hear that, I read that people are going to be living there? Is that true too? Did I hear I saw something about living there.
No,
No.
That was something I read in
we
this.
put the possibility of living quarters because sometimes there could be a maintenance person.
Okay, that was, okay, I was reading that.
It's not a residential
I didn't
facility.
think so. Okay, that's why I want to make sure.
I mean, it might be really attractive. If you
About to
want it, stay a little longer. No,
Very
no
tranquil.
intent for anything
Thank you.
more long term.
Can I jump in from it? I was particularly pleasant impressed with part of the spa experience are to commune to nature and wildlife.
Mhm.
Because I know that when I getting crazy, and I do, I go out into my own yard, into the woods, and it's a special experience.
Yeah.
And that particular property is offering a lot. What I read that concerned me, there are a couple. There are going to a lot of be outdoor activities, whether they be showers outside, whether they be meetings under a rooftop or something, hammock room or whoever. The limitation of noise and time are critical to our residents.
Right.
It is. And that's one. And the other side with the specificity, excuse me, I have a little trouble speaking, of this is not for local residents. The use is not. And it says so, I believe, in the material I read several times.
I'm not familiar
I
with.
understand you, this is not a public neighborhood.
I don't, when you say not for the use of local residents, I'm not following you.
Sure it said,
Well,
did I not read it?
It's not open to the public.
It's,
I mean, it is open to the public if you are a paying guest, but it is not like a public
Make it real
pool.
simple.
It's not that,
Somewhat handicapped. And if my doctor order for me treatment, whether it be massage to heat to whatever, would I then be able to use the facilities if my doctor's willing to write scripts for you?
it is my understanding that it is not intended as you would need to register as a guest, as if you were checking in at a hotel or booking an appointment at a physical therapist's office. So I suppose that if you wanted to pay for that, but I don't think this is
this is not a therapeutic facility,
right.
and it's not.
That's why I said I
yeah,
have some handicap.
but it doesn't exclude local.
Doctor ordering.
Oh no, but this is a private pay facility. This is a private pay facility. It's a private
I understand.
spa. So anyone who's willing to pay, anyone can go.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, and
So, excuse me, Chair, if I could?
Outside for the other one.
I'm sorry. I didn't hear that last. Was that a
Level
noise level? That's a concern. Yes, we're going to be cognizant of that.
specialists will allow us to do it so that we won't have piped out music to a group that are doing an excerpt programs.
There's not an intent to have loud amplified music. This is a serene environment.
Okay.
And it's intended to be
It
quiet
really
and
is
contemplative.
Very appealing, I have to say.
I'm
Because the
sorry.
woods are magic.
Yes. Oh, I think they want to do everything in their power to make sure that that is preserved, respected. And so my expectation is that this will be a facility that you'll like very much. You won't have a complaint about, a basis to complain about noise. And I think, to be discussed, I suppose, the, acceptable hours of operation in the village. But I don't think this is a late night evening events. This is certainly not an event space, although there is the question of what does event space mean? We'll talk about
What
that.
noise are you referring, if I may ask, what noise were you referring to?
If there's a group of whatever's going on outside at night, and I don't want that's going to be,
Okay.
can be something.
Now, let me just suggest that when the special use itself is considered, the board will be able to write in conditions to the special use.
And I don't have to worry
So,
about it.
but at that time,
I
time,
just have a terrible thing. I have been around for a while, so I've got to be hypercritical.
of course.
Well, I appreciate you raising the concern about noise, and we will have been prepared and certainly even more attuned to that concern when we come forward with the full team of people who are involved with the development of this and the operation of this, and we'll be prepared to talk to you about that.
I appreciate
Trying to
that.
trying to think. There's a place in the Dells that has like a spa, tranquil, like a spa. I'm not sure if you know what, I forgot the name of it, but I feel like this is something like it. Very tranquil. There's like the pools and everything and the different things that you can do. If I'm not mistaken, I don't know if you know what I'm
I'm
referring
not
to.
familiar with that.
Oh,
I don't
anyone?
get out enough.
There's a place. Does anyone know what I'm talking about? No. Okay. I'll look it up and I'll tell you which one it's called.
Commissioner Brown.
Chair, pardon me, Chair, thank you so much. Just a few clarify questions for you, okay? So did a little homework, and I'm curious on, Nordic spa. My homework says that means hot, cold rest.
Yes.
Okay. And is that a part just of the branding, or is that a special application at the spa around the Nordic experience that other local spas may not have?
Well, so there are plunge pools. So there's water, there's heat, there's sauna, right? So there's hot and cold in that respect. Personally, I have not been to a spa, so I don't know all the types.
You should treat yourself, sir.
I should.
If you don't, no one else will. Okay, quick follow-up question.
So, sorry.
Quick follow-up question. So just to clarify the questions from Commissioner Gratiter about use of the facility. So for example, there's a local restaurant that's on the property of a hotel. I can use that restaurant for a meal without being a guest of the hotel.
No.
In this application, that's not in scope.
Correct. Everything on site is intended for the people who are the guests of the spa there to enjoy the spa amenities.
Excellent.
The food is ancillary. The hotel effectively is ancillary. The hotel is not a general service hotel.
Excellent. So one could take advantage of the services and then take advantage of the restaurant without having an overnight stay? Or is the overnight stay the connecting point?
No, the overnight stay is not connecting because the first phase of this doesn't include a hotel. So in the first iteration of this, when they're trying to prove up that this works in this context, and they want to see if they can attract enough customers, there will be no overnight stay on site. I mean, if somebody wanted to get a hotel room at the
Holiday.
Holiday Inn, thank you,
Sure.
nearby, and then traipse back over the next day, of course, they could do that.
Okay. And then, so in the 23,000 square foot main building, long-term vision, a hotel building would not be in that main building.
Correct. There's another site which is indicated on the preliminary site plan that is at the southwest quadrant corner where part of the office building is, adjacent to that parking lot. And the hotel site would be there. And so the request in, that would be part of the phase 2 request that would be brought forward.
Excellent. Okay. Last question for you. When at capacity in phase 1, How many guests and how many parking spaces, if you don't mind, kind of talk to us a little bit about that?
I'm going to defer on that because I don't have those figures in front of me. I came here prepared to answer questions about the general text amendment and the process, the concept of it. The specifics of the property really are, in my mind, we're subject to the petition when we bring it forward. I can say that it is a few hundred, but it may have said in Bruce's memo, and it just is escaping me now, what the anticipated number was. The number of parking spaces is, we have a parking study, I know this, that says that they are adequate for, we're definitely well parked. We're reusing
Much of the existing?
the existing.
Great, thank you. So maybe, Director, do you have an idea of ballpark on current parking spaces on site, on the premise?
Not in front of me, but if you give me leave for about 1 minute.
No worries,
I can
no worries.
pick up
I'm just trying to get an impression of what it's like at density.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, I can just say too, there are 20-some buildings. And we do have a request that there be up to 300 seats for dining within the facility. Whether we'll actually build out to that, I'm not sure, but that was what my client wanted to try to obtain as something they could work towards. So that would be outside of the hotel is my understanding. So that may help give you a sense of the number of guests. Thank you.
Sundara Inn Spa is the name of the place.
All right.
Everyone knows it. Very popular place, by the way.
Well, again, I'm on the outs. I don't know that.
I know. That's the place. It's very similar.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions for our guest? I do want to discuss some specifics, but that we don't have to have the gentleman sit there for my questions.
Well, David Canotta,
But we can always call him back. Thank you very much.
if at some point we also, because it's a hearing, we have to ask if anyone in the public would like to address the planning commission. Also, once we're done with our own, questions and discussion. Just wanted to.
So now do we discuss specifics?
Well, we can discuss, yeah, sure. I mean, Michael Blue had pointed out to me, and then Steve and I have been talking a little bit about the height of the future hotel. And I think they were nervous, and David can speak to this. I think they were nervous that, well, first of all, they originally said 4 stories, and at staff meetings, we said a hotel of 4 stories could work on this site. Then we started saying, well, how high is 4 stories? And I had looked at what the height was on some of the adjoining properties and come up with 47 feet. Steve, maybe you can comment on that. I think the request for 58 was really an abundance of caution, and the decision doesn't have to be made tonight. If you make a recommendation to the board and you want to consider what the maximum height of the hotel is, you might have a different recommendation than that. Steve, do you want to comment on
the
that?
building height in itself is probably more a factor of the construction type. Certainly for cost control, if the project is built out of wood, which is protected against fire, because there would be a fire protection level, it's going to be a sprinklered building. So it still is an appropriate structure at 4 stories that could be done out of wood. But if they decided to do it out of steel bar joist, metal deck, the floor-to-floor space, floor-to-floor height could be reduced. And if they went to a full concrete building, it could be reduced even further. But, we're at a preliminary stage, so I have a feeling that the applicant is just interested in keeping their options open at this point based on what the economy of the country is 2-3 years down the road. Just my guess.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Just curious, what is the date that we're thinking if we approve this would be here? I'm just saying, what's the date out?
They indicated that they would probably close on the property by the end of the year and then spend part of 2027 getting plans and then basically having to come back to the village for permits. I don't know at what point they would be ready, but.
Okay, all right.
And then just to benchmark, how many room, do you have an estimate or a hard number on what's in the Holiday Inn? How many rooms for comparison on footprint, maybe even the Westin down the road off of Lake Cook and Milwaukee, or maybe the Westin, or excuse me, the Hyatt at Lake Cook right off the interchange of the Tri-State, just to help us kind of get an approximation of what 300 footprint could look like.
I don't have
100
that
was,
number.
was the seating for the,
Oh, excuse me, 300 is the seating.
it was 100, it was 140 rooms.
Right.
140 on the
There are only
room.
140 rooms, and I don't think that that's out of line compared to what, say, Holiday Inn has got. But I'm not prepared to give you an exact answer because in some ways, these are a lot of great questions, but they probably pertain more to the final presentation for the special.
Not presented that content to you.
Right. And at this point, we're probably 2-3 years down the road before that hotel is even going to be on the drawing board. Because it was my understanding, based on conversation with the Pomeroy group, that as Attorney Hubert has indicated, they're looking to close still in 2026. Then they have to go through a process of actually preparing construction drawings, which might take them anywhere from 6 to 9 months. You start breaking ground. They wanted to be in business for at least a year or so they could understand how the market is doing for this before they commit to actually constructing or not constructing a hotel. And if I'm wrong on that, David, tell me.
However, given the beauty of the internet, I can tell you that the Holiday Inn has, I thought it actually had 140 rooms.
Well, sir, depending upon the outcome, you might have heard there's a little stadium conversation. So depending upon location, you got to go by Lake Cook, right? To get, so very strategic location. Certainly appreciate, Director Witt, what you were talking about with respect to timing and so many unknowns on the specificity of the details we're asking here. Sorry, back to your client and the conversation we've had from Commissioner Graditer and others. We're just mindful that we are in a position to continue to preserve these critical elements that make the village of Riverwoods exactly what it is, a nice blend of river and woods. Just a maybe not so eloquently worded question here, but I'm familiar there are some spas that are, can you help us understand the culture or the dynamic of the spa experience that, guests would be afforded when they are on property and what the expectations are with respect to decorum? How about that?
This would be a very high-end, that has bad connotations too, high-end facility operation. This is a legitimate place. I mean, this is
Not a question.
you're right. So in terms of the decorum, I have not been to a Pomeroy spa. I testified earlier, I've not been to a spa before, but what I have seen of their promotional materials and what I have seen in other materials that they have been preparing for this, this is like this is a resort. That's what it's really comparable to. This is a resort that happens to be about relaxation rather than skiing and other more rigorous activities. This is for relaxation and enjoyment. And I think it's comparable to a
Commissioner Braun, if I may interject, and if you believe what the internet says, Holiday Inn here in Riverwoods is 115 rooms. So we're not far off from where they are.
Thank you. And I appreciate, again, just trying to understand a little bit about the dynamic since we don't have an adjacent property in proximity to understand what the experience looks like. Son going to school in the Atlanta area, so maybe I'll have an opportunity to take out a trip and go visit. but really appreciate you kind of talking to us in the early stages of the conversation to help us understand and appreciate what your client is bringing to the marketplace.
I
Thank
wish
you.
I wish we were in the hearing on the actual application, because I've seen a fly-through of the Georgia facility, and it's quite elegant. And I'm hoping that they can put together something comparable for you to show you how this would work, to give you a sense of the scale of the massing and just the decor from the exterior and maybe even some of the interior of the buildings. And I think it'll be enticing.
Lastly, no disrespect to your client, just trying to understand. I've had an opportunity to go out to the webpage, but just again, to help us get a better understanding and appreciation. I really appreciate the conversation we've been able to have about that. So thank you very much.
I think any visuals that you can bring would be very helpful. Yeah. But I do want to point out that we are talking about approving a text amendment, and there are specifics in this draft. I mean, it does say 140 separate rentable units and 58 feet in height. And I think if we have a problem with that or concern, we should talk about it before we pass or recommend passage of something. So keep that in mind. Just because we're talking about, it may be up to whatever, but the number is going to be there. So if you don't like 58 feet, then now we should recommend that it's not 58 feet. If you don't like 140 rooms, we should not recommend 140 rooms.
Here's a question. And I'm just trying to picture this. How far away, when this is built, is it near residence? Like, how far away is it going to be where, and I know you talked about noise, she talked about noise. How far away is it from everything? That's my question. And
Well, you could try, David, if you want.
where it is.
Since we are working within the footprint of the existing office buildings,
Okay.
and we are preserving the perimeter parking that holds, sort of contains everything from the south,
All right.
it's not going to be any closer than what is there now. And for most of it, the scale is going to be considerably less, because the only real verticality would come from the possible hotel, but everything else is single story. Actually, sorry, I think the bistro might have a second story. I have to look at the plans again. Might just be first, but everything else will be, the scale will be a lot less. You won't have the massing and the light coming out of office buildings in the evenings, et cetera. So, and the footprint is contained. We really are respecting the site where the building existed, and we're not, except for maybe a couple of little elevated walkways,
Yeah.
really pushing out from that. I think that the one caveat to that is I think the hotel footprint might be slightly further south towards Lake Cook Road than the south face of that portion of the office building by a pretty small amount, because most of that parking lot is being preserved. I think the north, maybe one row of parking is being taken over by the footprint of the anticipated hotel.
I'm sorry I didn't put like an area map in the memo, but I mean, just remember, the south boundary is Lake Cook. To the east is Holiday Inn and the office building.
Mm-hmm.
To the north, at Chianti, 3 of the 4 lots on the north side of Chianti are owned by the village and are going to be open space. Across on the west is Port Wine and Forest Preserve.
Right.
So there's probably one single-family residence at the very end of Chianti, which is pretty
Okay.
far away.
So that's good. Yeah,
So
that's good.
it's pretty.
I mean, it seems like a very nice, I mean, I love the concept. I really do. Truly, I do. I think it would be great for Riverwoods. I love that you thought about us here too as well. So.
Interesting. One of the conversations we've been having about this is they had said that they wanted, and to your point also, to have some fencing, because they want people in there to not see traffic on Lake Cook, to not see, and also to
Right.
to enjoy privacy while they're there.
Sure, but fence.
On the other hand, we've said we don't really want to see a stockade fence.
Right, I was just going to say.
So in terms of like keeping their, and they really, I think, understood this as well, and keeping the views open into the woods. So we're talking about it in terms of some like black chain link or, aluminum, metal type black fence that dissolves into the forest. So those are,
Nice.
there's a push and pull on that.
If I can add one more comment to that, and adding on to what Attorney Meek has indicated, that yes, the hotel is actually slightly out of the footprint. So thank you for making that clarification. However, what I would like to say is that, this building, the existing building is essentially a 2-story, maybe a little higher with the roof. The bistro area, the main building and a bistro kind of help to replicate that structure from a noise buffer between adjacent sites. And I think the strategic location of the hotel at a 4-story level is going to work very well to help block the drone of traffic on Lake Cook from the nearest residential properties toward Lake Cook Road as well. That hotel in itself is going to be a relatively quiet experience because you just have people walking in and out of the parking. The parking doesn't change any from what Wolters Kluwer has, but the hotel itself with that, I hate to use the word bulk, but it is bulk, will act as a buffer for the noise of the drone of the vehicles going back and forth on Lake Cook Road. When you go out to the site and you stand in front of Wolters Kluwer building on the south side, you can still hear the traffic noise over the berms that are there. As you get further away from the berms, that noise reduces dramatically. So what they are trying to do in here is, with additional landscaping, help to buffer that noise, because they're trying to work 2 ways. Number one, I think they're being very respectful to the neighborhood with regard to keeping the activities where people congregate further away from the residential areas. But on the other hand, the strategic location of these buildings actually makes this a very relaxing and quiet enjoyment area for people that are trying to just be immersed in nature. And as Commissioner Graditer explains, just have a quiet experience out on the site.
Any questions or comments? Does anybody have any comments about the language specifics?
I think it looks good, other than the biggest question is, what do we do about the height? And is there a way we can wordsmith that so it becomes approved through the special use?
Well, you could recommend approval of the text amendment with a recommendation to the board to consider reducing the maximum height from 58 to 47 feet, and then let the board take up your recommendation.
Yeah.
And then they will have more of an opportunity to explain what their point of view is.
Right.
I would like that. I don't like the idea of the 4 stories, just without seeing any pictures or visuals about how it might be looked less than 4. I think 4 is a lot.
Yeah. Have you looked on the website for Nordic Spa at all?
I have.
Yeah. Yeah. And the Nordic Spa part, it shows the spa, but you can go to the hotel part and get some idea what it looks like, Now is there one going in Atlanta? Is that what you said?
Yes.
Okay. Because on the website, there's only Anchorage and Calgary or the Western Rockies.
It's under a similar type of review process as the instruction.
Okay.
It's in Dahlonega,
Okay.
Georgia,
Okay.
north of Atlanta.
So anyway, that's one point. I can't speak to 140 rooms. I don't know if that's a lot or not a lot. I have no way of judging that. But it's a question I have. I do have some wording questions if we want to get into the weeds, but if it's too early.
Would it affect your vote, or would it be things that, because we can pass on wording suggestions to the board as part of a staff memo? And say, here's some, because, we got some last minute changes suggested by the petitioner. We can say, this is what came to the Plan Commission. Here's some additional things for the board to consider.
I'm fine with doing it that way, except I do have one substantive comment. And that is, and I know I commented about this with Plan Unit Development Ordinance also, and that was, when we get into the sustainability, which is on page 3, section 1E, I made the same comment. about the feasibility, the clause that says when feasible, and that's like a double negative. It's not-
Yeah, you're looking at an older draft.
Oh, is
I
it?
took it out.
Oh, did you? Okay, well, all right, well, never mind. Yeah, I had a problem with that.
No, I just said there were some last minute changes. And
Okay.
I sent you an earlier draft and
Okay.
I
Okay,
didn't like that either.
okay, good. Then I'm happy to give my suggestions to you when you do the draft or when we do the draft.
One question.
Sure.
So you talk about the
Sure.
height. Can you like expand, like what are you're saying that we should have it less height? Tell me what your thoughts are on that, why you're saying that.
I just think a bulky building in that location is not a consistent look.
Okay.
I think that a nice low prairie style kind of look is a compatible look with a woodland.
The question I have is what is the standard in these Nordic spas? What do they do? I'm very curious about that, how, when it comes to height, if I may ask.
I'll confess I should have been prepared for that question. I'm not.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I am not. So I can't offer anything with
Okay.
respect to that. If I could pivot for a minute and ask, because we're here, I mean, we're listening to your deliberations, would you be willing to share at least the gist, if not the specific language of what your suggested revisions were so that I can report back to my client to get them thinking about this as well, understanding that, this will be brought forward to the village board, but we might not see it for a couple of weeks. I mean, I know Bruce is very quick, but.
Well, what I was going to ask is if the chair could actually pass that on to me shortly, because we are having our next technical staff review meeting next week, at which point in time we will be offering our comments back to Pomeroy next week. And it would be best to incorporate those at this time. What we have, just so that the commission understands, is that we have met as a group at least twice with the Pomeroy group, including at one time on site, took a look at the different facilities and where they may get placed on site. So staff has been very intimate with this project. This is not something that's just getting dumped on us for a quick review. Part of our last review was a comment to them that we are looking for elevations of the buildings, floor plans, material boards, things like that. We're not looking for that site specific, but what we are asking for is what are the typical components of the bistro building. We're not saying that we want to know exactly what the precise footprint is for this building, because that's going to ebb and flow a little bit as we do a final definition of that footprint during the permitting aspect. But if it's within reason with regard to what the village board may eventually approve, that's reasonable. So we're looking at content, what type of facilities are inside each of those, and that would be brought in front of the board at the meeting when it is presented for the special use. So those things have been thought about, and we have asked them for that, and they are preparing that. They have just submitted their current package to us yesterday afternoon. I have not had time to dive into it. I'm still in the process of downloading it all. So I haven't looked at it yet, and it may all be there for all I know.
I think it's looking at other spas too, to get ideas. Obviously we're in this pre-staging right now, trying to figure this out, but it's kind of early stages. So the idea is to look at other spas. What are they doing? I think that's important to know that kind of stuff.
And I can say that I did take the time to look quickly, at least through the materials that we had provided to you, or that Pomeroy had provided. And they do have material boards, a lot more depictions, some floor plans, actually, with
And I also understand that they're intending to do a fly-through presentation.
They have provided a fly-through of the Georgia facility, and whether they are doing one, I hope they're doing one for you as well.
They indicated that they would present something to get a better feel for it for those that have never seen what's going on.
Yes. And if I could just address the hotel, sort of stating the obvious, but they're trying to, and And I absolutely appreciate your concerns about height and room number and what would this look like. And that's why they came forward with a proposal of what they think would be feasible from their standpoint, and we'll react to what your guidance is as well. And so we'll look forward to trying to come up with what we can. We're a little hamstrung in that, you know, they've always looked at the hotel as a second phase, and they wanted to see what parameters could be achievable today that they could then work within to invest more time and money in that element of it. And I will say confidently that they would, if they're going to design the spa to have a certain look, their intent is to bring forward a hotel that is complementary to that and not garish or you know, inconsistent with that look. So
I
part of a
appreciate that.
yes.
Yeah, and that I was going to say is they should definitely be a comprehensive plan for the site, you know, where they complement each other and the site itself. So that makes sense.
Right,
And
and
you
the
can do 4 stories, and I mean, it could be gorgeous. I don't know.
And the controls would be that,
Could be.
yeah, the controls would be sort of a mix of the sort of large parameters that the village might be comfortable with giving today for guidance. And then that hotel component would have to come through its own preliminary plan to then take the final plan. So it wouldn't leapfrog a preliminary, and the preliminary would provide all of the types of details that you would expect and you will see for the phase 1. That would come back for phase 2 of the hotel.
You know, the chair will probably be able to sit down with me and go through comments, and with Steve. You don't know this, but the chair is a lawyer also. And so just as you and your partner were gracious enough to correct all of my various errors in the drafting, the chair is.
I often do.
does the same. So if there was something that you felt like was really material that would like really upset the apple cart, you could mention it, but otherwise we could probably go through them and it won't, I mean.
No, I would not say any of these upset the apple cart. I just think there's a lot of tweaking, and there aren't that many, frankly. I thought it was a nice draft. That was a good draft. I think the most substantive thing was had already been mentioned by Director Witt, which was about, I would add something on architectural drawings, which I thought was missing from one of the appendices. But the feasible comment, which you say is gone now, was my most substantive comment.
Okay.
So everything else is fairly minor, I think.
Let's not forget to invite public comment at this point if there's anyone here. Well, first we have to see if
Do we have
there's
any more questions or comments by commissioners? Does the public have any comments? Yes, Trustee Clayton.
Michael Clayton. Would you say in spirit and many of the particulars of the development that this is consistent with all the work and everything that went into the PUD ordinance in terms of design and elements?
Well, you know what?
When you say 20 buildings, it's kind of hard to picture without seeing the site plan.
Did you have a chance to see my memo or any of you see none of the drawings? Okay, so that's let me hand you something. Let me hand you something to just give you a sense of what this looks like.
If I may just remit, so this is what exists today, and that's the office building. And then this is the complex. It's very small, but that's the complex as it's being proposed. This is maybe version 3. There's a few tweaks to it. That's the concept.
I recognize where we are. Yeah, thank you. That's great. So the answer is yes.
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 Okay. Second question is, besides what non-reimbursable costs will there be to the village for this development?
Well, we can ask them to address that as part of the request for the special use. One of the comments we made is to make sure that the on-site water main repair and maintenance is something that they take care of. because we're aware that there'll be a lot of water to these facilities. So, we can identify certain infrastructure costs like that we want to make sure that the development takes care of. But I don't expect additional policing costs. I guess we could ask the chief about that. I don't expect that from this. I don't know how these types of uses are assessed, so I can't speak of what the tax difference is. I think we should ask them to do that for their presentation. David, maybe take a note of that, because, Wolters Kluwer has been trying to get its taxes reduced for some time because of its lower occupancy. So I don't know what is a fair apples to apples, but whatever that tax impact is, primarily to the school districts and the other taxing bodies. But I think we've been focusing primarily at staff review on things like sewer and water and those kind of utility extensions and cost. But Steve, is something, am I missing a element of burden to the village?
I think you've got it.
Would there be any concern around demo or abatement? I mean, I'm trying to go to the root cause of your question, right? Upfront expenses.
There's a lot of times that the village needs to supply infrastructure of some sort or another,
Water storm.
curb cutting or something like that in order to facilitate a development. And I was just wondering, in this context, if there were costs to the village that we were anticipating at this point.
Yeah, no, right now, because they're reusing the parking on the space, they've got the entrance to cook and so forth. There'll be, our expenses will basically be the staff time and permitting and review and like normal things for which we'll be collecting, permit fees.
Okay. Last, the property on the at the north edge of the Wolters Kluwer site, there's Chianti Trail, and then on the other side of that is the Wondrous subdivision, where we had talked for some time about trying to incorporate that as phase 2 or 3, whatever it is, of the campus plan, with pathways and so on, and demonstration areas along the wetlands. If it's possible to connect the pathways into the Wolters Kluwer's pathways so that we have a bigger site, in essence, what are the legal issues that would be involved in trying to work out an agreement so that we could have access to the pathways?
I think first of all, it's just a design question, so that when the public enters that part of the path, they're not interfering with the privacy of the guest experience. Right. So I think, first of all, can they accommodate that in such a way that they're trying to provide a haven for people to experience nature and not be like in a public trail, right? So then there's this question of what happens when you introduce people coming across. But that's a topic that we can talk about. They're not trying to fence off that property.
We had talked about that with Wolters Kluwer at one point, but then things changed with Wolters Kluwer. So,
and one of the things that with Jed Anderson, I'll try to get closer here. One of the things with Jed Anderson, our wetland consultant, is that even for some of the minor incursions they wanted to make, we've been very careful. Like, okay, it has to be like an elevated wood plank. It has, we're trying to really keep the impact to that area low. So I know what you're saying coming across Chianti, and I may have mentioned this months back to them, but the idea that there could be something that comes into that northern part, and then I can ask them again about that. So far, there's been such an effort just to get to this site plan that's not really been front and center. But
if I can add to that, though, we've had some of this discussion, not directly to that point, but we've had discussion with Jed on the elevated walkways that are currently planned for on the site through the wetlands. And there is still concern about damage that could be done to the wetlands during the construction. So yes, after it's all done, it works well, but it's what's the damage that occurs to the wetlands, which are, in his words, probably the highest quality wetlands, not only in Riverwoods, but the region. And what kind of damage may or may not be done that's irreversible. So I think that needs a little more study to determine whether or not
Several
that could happen.
that are present on that site. So,
They,
There are paths to go through, but if we're talking about adding additional paths, that's where I'm going toward.
thank you. Well, I guess I have one last question. Can board members get a discount?
We actually were going to talk about that. Yes, yes.
we have another.
Oh,
the public.
trustee Jamerson.
Rick Jamerson, in case you don't know. I don't have a question. I do have a comment, though. First of all, it's not in Anchorage. It's in Girdwood. And I know that because I was there a month and a half ago. Girdwood is about an hour southeast of Anchorage. It is about 600 people. I was there for a meeting. And my wife and I, it's in a very area that's very similar to this. And they have walking paths that actually extend quite a ways up the mountain. It's a ski resort in the winter. And we went up the path. And when we came back down is when I noticed the spa with people in little hot tubs and just like you're talking about here. We did not hear them, to your question about noise, we did not hear them going up the path. We did not hear them coming down the path. We saw them coming down the path. So it's not a rowdy, let's all get in the hot tub and have a party kind of time. It's obviously an upper class. I mean, this resort, it's a resort area. It's a very high class resort, upper class resort. So to the point of noise, I don't think you're going to have to worry about that personally. The spa itself I didn't go into the spa, but the area around it, the outside, it was all, was connected to the hotel, but I don't believe the hotel there is part of the development. I could be wrong. But it was very well done. It blended in beautifully with the surroundings. They did a very nice job. So I'm not a shill for them, but I'm just letting you know that what I saw was.
Is this more like couples? Like, I'm just curious, like the kind of people you saw there?
There were couples. I would say yes, there were couples, but there were, the hot tubs are big enough that you can put at least there, they were big enough. The spas were big enough that you could put 4 or 6 people in.
Okay.
But like I said, I didn't realize that it was even there until we came back down and saw it because we didn't hear it going up. So anyways, that was my comment.
Thanks.
Other than that, I think it's a great use for the property. And as far as the height of the hotel is concerned, I would just remind everyone that the Capital One is
Hi.
58 feet.
Yeah.
58 feet.
That's why I think we need to kind of look at that just to see,
And I realize,
Not beautiful.
well, no, it's not beautiful, but it could be beautiful.
the way it's designed too, like you said,
So-
who knows what it's going to look like,
My
that's the
comment.
way I look at it.
Could be beautiful.
I say we do
Thank you.
an
Thank
expedition
you.
of spas. We go spa hunting and go look around. That's what we do.
Are there any other questions from the public or comments? Any more comments or questions from commissioners?
We have a motion to close the public hearing.
Yes, I will
Aye.
entertain a motion to close the
Aye.
public hearing.
Aye.
Any second?
Second the motion to close the public hearing.
We don't have to vote on.
Always fight.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, the hearing is closed.
So now that we're looking for a motion to recommend approval of the text amendment to the Village Board of Trustees with the suggestion that the board examine the maximum height of 58 feet and decide whether that is necessary.
Correct. And I don't know, put in some discussion about language. Or is that, I'll just do that.
Well, I'll communicate some other thought. We'll have some other thoughts before we get to the next meeting.
Okay, so.
We always do.
So we'll entertain a motion to approve the text amendment.
Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the text amendment and given the additional consideration in the staff discussion for comments brought forward in tonight's discussion as well.
Any second?
Second.
Second.
All right, all in favor, please. Oh, we have roll call. Okay, roll call on the question of the text amendment.
Commissioner Blaylock,
Aye.
Commissioner Gratitude,
Aye.
Commissioner Bosar is not here, Commissioner Brown,
Aye.
Commissioner Rothbard,
Aye.
Chairperson Brightcott.
Aye.
Motion passed.
Thank you all. We can move to the second item of new business now.
I took off.
Oh, you took it off? Boy.
Sorry, they weren't ready. I didn't want to rush us.
Okay. So we have no unfinished business. Staff report, Director Witt, do you have anything for us?
Couple of comments. This project is going through staff technical review number 3, I believe, currently. We will be putting together comments and forwarding those off to Pomeroy yet this week, pending the village board acceptance of tonight's motion. Pomeroy is still on track for the Plan Commission hearing set for August 6th. So we anticipate that that would be moving forward. After that, then.
Is everyone planning to be around August 6th?
Yes. So we're missing,
Well,
We'll ask Tim.
Tim.
We'll ask Tim.
well, yes, right, so. And then,
Okay, well, let me know. Let me know if you are not available.
Right. And we have member Bizarre that don't know what the status will be for the 6th at this point. So that's really all I have as far as updates on this particular project. But as a follow-up to another one that's always been near and dear to the Plan Commission, Orphans of the Storm is having essentially their groundbreaking ceremony tomorrow. They have been issued a site preparation permit. Should see there have been some tree removals that are part of the project, authorized part of the project. The construction fence should be going up, and they are at this point removing the internal berm, which is situated right where the new building is going to go. We anticipate getting the actual demolition permit issued within a week. They have performed all the asbestos abatement in the building, and they have it all clear on that. That was really the last thing that's holding them up, other than our physically issuing the permit. They have review comments from us, and once they fix all of those, I would assume within the next 2 weeks, give or take, the full permit would then be issued after the demolition work is complete. So that project is moving forward very well. So that's all I have.
Thank you very much. I have no comments, so I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Does anybody have any other comments before we adjourn?
just a quick question, remind us, do they intend to remain in operation under construction at Orphans?
One more.
Okay, so what's happening with Orphans? Yes, they will be in operation, not to the extent of the number of animals. They've had to reduce, obviously, because, I don't know, I guess 80% of that building is going to be demolished. It is empty at this point. They are turning most of the operations over to the residential structure at the southeast corner of the project. However, the main entry and the main drop-off point is still going to remain in place. There is a corridor between that piece, which is the say the bottom of the T, because it's reverse of what you would normally have. That is the east-west portion. Then there's that north-south wing. The north-south wing is being removed. There is a corridor between that and the east-west, which is a key in a strategic spot to do the demolition work. So the building will be removed from that point forward. There will be staff inside that building as well as the residential area. So, you know, they're anxious to get this moving because they're at reduced capacity and are already having issues with, you know, other entities asking, hey, can you take on a cat or a dog? And they're having to turn away. So it will be affecting them as far as that goes. But yes, they're working hard.
Any other questions before we move to adjourn?
One last question.
Okay.
Last time I mentioned about Orange Theory, just curious if anything has been developed on that.
I have heard nothing personally.
Really? Interesting. Okay. I'm shocked. Like the place is open. Okay.
Can I have a motion to adjourn, please?
I move we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?